Welcome, everyone. We will give the participants 2 more minutes to join. See you in a bit. All right, let's start. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today. I'm in the classroom. I see we have people joining from all over the world. That's great. My name is Jani Prinz. I'm heading the life sciences team at Knime, and I have the pleasure today to introduce to you our speakers. I want to start with our external speakers. So we have Professor Dursun Dilan from the Oklahoma State University with us. He's actually right now joining from Turkey. Welcome, Dursun. I also see we have other participants joining from Turkey as well. That's great. Hello. And then in addition, we have Professor Daniele Tonini, who's joining us from Milan right now. Welcome, Professor Tonini. Hello, Daniele.
Hello.
Good to see you. Before we start, I will introduce the speakers a little bit in more detail in a second, but before we start, a little bit housekeeping. So please use the Q&A section to post your questions and upvote your favorite questions. So what you see here, we have that little Q&A section down below, and here if someone asks a question, you can actually do thumbs up. So this way we can actually make sure that the most important questions for sure get answered. We are recording that session. And the sessions will be available afterwards. So we will send a follow-up email with all the links, promo codes, and recordings. So no need to scribble down anything. You can just really enjoy the sessions. So as I said, we will start with Dursun, and he will talk about visual workflows for data science education. He is actually an expert in the business analytics data science field, where he authored more than 100 peer-reviewed journal articles and 10 books and textbooks. He is a faculty member of the Oklahoma State University, so it's going to be a very interesting talk. And then after that, Stefan, my dear colleague, will take over. He is with Knime, and at Knime, he's actually responsible for the academic relations. Before that, he was working as a bioimage analyst at the University of Constance, and already at that point, he was using Knime a lot and advocating for it. And then last but not least, we have Daniele with us, and he will actually talk about a field report of using Knime in teaching. He is an experienced advisor in the field of advanced business analytics. Amongst other, he's also a partner at the analytics company Target Research. And right now, he's also a professor at the Bocconi University, as well as the University of Insubria, where he's teaching a lot of courses, but he will talk about that in more detail in his field report. So with that, I'm already handing over to Dursun. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everyone. I am Dursun Delan. I'm a faculty member at Oklahoma State University. When I start talking about analytics and in specific Knime, how to use Knime for classroom teaching, I start with my analytics and data science background. And I say, I have over 30 years of experience in the field of analytics and data science. A lot of people think that, I'm exaggerating because analytics, the term has been around only maybe a little longer than a decade. Data science is even more recent, but I actually did what analytics stands for, converting data into actionable insight. My first project was in 1988 on IBM mainframes, writing COBOL code for optimal service pricing. And for 30 years of acting as a consultant, research scientist, and university professor, I have accumulated a lot of experience, if you will, in the field of data science and analytics. In the last 20 years or so, I have been a professor at OSU teaching analytics courses at pretty much every level: undergraduate, master's, PhD, executive education, and certification. I not only teach analytics, but also conduct my research in analytics and consult the companies and government agencies on analytics and data science related topics and projects. At OSU, though, we have been awarding graduate certificates and degree programs over 15 years, and they all are analytics related, data science related. We were one of the very first in the field of crafting and graduating students with the data mining certificate. And then we quickly migrated and graduated into undergraduate degree programs and master's degree programs. In all these times, 20, 30 years or so, I have used a wide variety of software tools, both commercial and free open source. I've always believed that the tool, the software itself that I use to teach analytics should not come before the foundational concepts and best practices. It should be intuitive, easy to learn, easy to apply, so that the professor and the students spend more time and mental effort on mastering the very essence of data science and business analytics. So it should not be so much syntactic detail focused, but it should be semantically motivated. So I usually make the distinction between skill building for a software tool versus educating the best practices on a specific field. And I usually go with the educational component of it. As I was searching for more intuitive, easy to use, comprehensive tools, I came across Knime about 6 years ago. I tried it, I used it in a few small projects, and then I thought I should maybe pilot it in one of my graduate courses. After I did that, I liked it. And more importantly, my student liked it very much. The value add was undeniable. And I decided to make it my primary tool to teach all of my analytics courses at the undergraduate and graduate level, as well as to executives, the professionals. Since then, I've never looked back. more I used it, more I liked it. Now, I have to say, every now and then, for some projects, I have to tap into Python or maybe even some of the other commercial tools to do certain very specific things. But the majority of everything that I do on the teaching, research, and consultancy, I do it with Knime because it has the functionality and it's easy to teach and to actually apply to pretty complex problems. I'm not only using Knime in my classes and research projects, I'm also actively advocating for it to my network of research and teaching colleagues, to my recent past PhD graduates, who most of them are faculty members now in different universities around the US and abroad. So let me tell you a few things. What are the things that I like the most about Knime? First and foremost is that it's visual and it's a workflow type. So I can actually explicitly capture and present the logic flow in building an analytics project. Students can resonate with it, understand it, internalize it, and replicate it, right? It also allows me to represent the logic, the project at the most granular level. A lot of the workflow-driven tools in the marketplace have a single node that functions, a lot of algorithms and low-level functionalities for a given specific task, sort of saying that they know how it should be done, so you should trust the tool that does it. Maybe it resonates well with business managers, people who does not have the analytics or data science background, but for a professor, for a student who's learning analytics, I think they need to have full control over every little functionality that collectively performs a task in data science. And Knime actually provides that at the most granular level that I've ever seen in any tool. And believe me, I've used every single tool that is in the market for the last 30 years. Another thing that I like, a few little things, actually, Rosario and I, we start talking about what are the top 10 reasons for people who adopt and use Knime in industry and in academia. And to me, I think one of the top reason is the cost. It's free. It's free for everything. You can use it for teaching. You can use it for commercial purposes. You can use it for everything. And it's not a scaled down or a memory limited or a community version of the software. It's the full-fledged software that's available to you, $0 cost that you actually incur. In academia, although some of the tools we can get free from the commercial companies, you still have to write proposals and spend time to be able to get to it and make it available to your students. Another thing is the open source. For those of you who are into developing their own algorithms, it's open source. Build your own functionality, your own node, and compare it and contrast it against other nodes. One thing that kind of comes up is the platform agnostic. I've always had this issue when I use commercial or free tools where the software or the program language is not operating system agnostic. So nowadays, half of my students are using Mac, half of using roughly half perhaps Microsoft operating system. And if I'm teaching an advanced IT course, I still have a handful of students who are into Linux. Knime actually runs natively on all of those platforms. That makes my life so easy. So I don't have to deal with the integrated details of the platforms. It's rich in functionality. Knime actually has over 2,000 native nodes, functionalities that you can attach together to tackle any complex data science, business analytics project. Now, 2,000 plus means that's a lot of nodes, right? However, I actually give my students a cheat sheet, which includes about 20, 30 nodes that they can actually do most everything they need to do. And then at the end of the semester, they actually discovered another, 50 to 100 nodes. They learn things and do things better than I could. Because once they get used to the tool, kind of go over the learning curve, the top part, the very first few hours to a couple of days, because it's so easy, but every tool has a learning curve. Once you get over it, from then on, it's puzzle solving to some extent, a fun puzzle solving that they actually pull together. Um, Another thing is that you can actually read any kind of data from local drive, from internet. You can scrape data from web pages. It's modular because if you end up having too many nodes so that it's too crowded, you can create your meta nodes and your components to kind of streamline the look and feel and functionality of your workflow. And there is a huge sport behind it. There's community support, there's Knime hub that you can actually find examples, workflows, and answers to all kinds of questions. And Knime itself comes with a very rich collection of examples that you can actually download, make your own from the cloud. And then you can change a few nodes and change the input data, and then it becomes your own node. And I use Knime to teach and emphasize on the data, the wrangling of the data, accessing the data, merging the data, pre-processing of the data, transforming data. Because to me, data science is more about data than it's about machine learning. Because once you have the good data and you know what machine learning algorithm needs, and you can make that match between the two, the good things are going to come out of that marriage. And if you have any question, reach out to me via email. Questions that we may not be able to answer because you may not be able to think of right now. If you think of something new, you can reach out to Knime or me directly, and I can try to answer them for you. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, turn it over back to Jenny. Jenny?
Thanks a lot, Dorsen. That was very insightful.
Thank you.
There was one question. I would say we take one question, and then there will also be questions later where we will have 10 minutes at the end of the talk. But someone was asking if you can share the cheat sheet that you were talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll send it to you guys so you can circulate it to all of the attendees. Absolutely.
Nice. Oh, that's a special feature here. That's very cool.
Actually, Knime has a lot of cheat sheet in different functionalities. Mine is more of my own teaching of predictive analytics. So which nodes are commonly used to read the data, which nodes are commonly used to process the data, which nodes that I use to train and test the model, and then assess the model. So absolutely, I can send it to you as a PDF file, a single page, nice visual cheat sheet that you can share it with all the attendees.
Nice, perfect. That's really icing on the cake. Thanks a lot. Good. And then with this, I will give over to Stefan, and he will talk about community resources for educators.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Thank you very much, Dorsen, for that lovely presentation. Let me share my screen because I've prepared a couple of slides for you. Here we go, the second desktop. And the presenter view. Here we go. As Johnny already mentioned, I'm responsible for academic relations and building up the academic program here at Knime. I will briefly, before I really dive deeper into how we support educators, how we want to make your life easier if you're interested in integrating Knime to your class, I will actually briefly show you how the Knime Analytics platform looks like, because I'm assuming that we actually have quite a few people attend who haven't seen that before. So this is the Knime Analytics platform workbench. As Dorsen has already mentioned and really nicely pointed out during his talk, is that we have a visual and a workflow approach. So what I would only like to point out in that case is the centerpiece here, which we call the workflow editor. Because what we see in this workflow editor and what you basically do with it is you build your analytics or analysis workflows from scratch using individual nodes basically drag and dropping nodes from the node repository into the workflow editor and connecting them to build so-called workflows. So just to reiterate on that, the idea really is that we have nodes that perform individual atomic tasks. Also something that Dursun has elaborated on. So we're not trying to be super smart about that. There's usually one node, one functionality. You're defining the data that is going into, that feeds into a node, that it's processed, the input data, and with data coming out of a node, we connect those ports here to build bigger workflows. And what you see here at the bottom really is just a small example, and this can really get big. We regularly see customers actually building workflows with a couple of hundreds, up to 1,000 or 2,000 nodes, basically. Just to give you an idea, for those who have not seen the analytics platform yet and how workflows look like and how we think, it's actually a nice way of teaching data science to students as well. So much about that. Feel free to ask any questions, also general questions about the analytics platform in the chat. We can get back to them later on. Now let's jump over to the what we call the Academic Alliance, or our academic program. There's 3 things that I really want to point out and talk about. The Academic Alliance for us, it's really a matter of community, a community of educators, lecturers, as well as researchers. I want to talk a bit about how we want to support how we want to support educators and lecturers when integrating Knime into their classes, into the curriculum, but also talk a bit about Knime in scientific research and how we get involved in there. All the information, you have the link here on the slide, we'll send that around, as Johnny already mentioned, in our follow-up email, where you can actually read up on all those things. Starting with community. There's actually a generic Knime community that you can reach at forum.knime.com. Where we not only answer questions about the software, but we also have special interest group on specific topics, for instance, and we have a dedicated category in there for academics, for the Knime Academic Alliance, where the primary idea really is to foster exchange between the members of the community. You can immediately go to that category if you click the link here. The idea here is that this section really is open because we think that most of the exchange should actually happen out in the open, and we also use it to advertise benefits, post news, new material that is available, and so on. And in addition to that publicly available information, there's also a locked subsection in the forum that you can use for sharing sensitive material like exam questions or student projects that you don't want to have leaked to the public because you want to reuse them next year, for instance. If you want to get access to this locked subsection and join the academic community, join the Academic Alliance, send us an email to academia@knime.com so that I can unlock you for this community, and also the benefits that I will talk about in the coming slide. Support for educators, basically making your life easier with using Knime in your class, using a visual workflow-driven tool in your class. How do we support you? What's on offer here so that you don't have to start from scratch? That's really the basic idea. We provide teaching materials. There's a plethora of books that we publish under the Knime Press umbrella, actually. We have a Knime certification program, discounts if you want to attend a Knime course or other Knime events, and also guest lectures. I will go into the details of those points in a few seconds. So let's start with the teaching material, because that's basically, well, it's the most important thing next to the tool. Do I have to start designing my curriculum from scratch? Do I have to start from scratch with the slides? We don't think it makes sense, so we're sharing a lot of teaching material with the community. We've just recently published a page, knime.com/teaching materials, where you can get access to the teaching material once you have been unlocked as a member of the Academic Alliance. So the idea here is that we want to move away from how we think our courses make sense, the structure that we have in our heads, and moving a bit more into the direction of providing material for specific topics, for instance, machine learning, text mining, time series analysis, things like that. So you will find a collection of material here where we also, for instance, share materials and slides for the Knime courses, but also interesting links to webinars, chapter references in our Knime books, and so on. So what do I mean when I say educational material? What you can download here really is slides, not only PDFs, but PowerPoints. What is on that webpage is released under a Creative Commons license, so please feel free, download the material, mix and match, use parts of the slides, use the whole slides and the whole slide deck in your class. Feel free to do whatever you like with that. With that also come exercise and solution workflows and some example workflows to follow along those courses, and they also come with data that you're also we're also would be happy if you would reuse them into your reuse them in your classes, basically. So that already should give you a good head start in integrating Knime into your classes. Thinking a bit more about your students, Thurston already mentioned, in particular in his classes, he's not really focusing, or he doesn't want to focus on the tool, but he wants to focus on best practices, on maybe on the, you might want to focus on the theory, for instance, and not so much on the tool. We can help you with that. I mentioned that before under the umbrella of Knime Press Books. We actually have a couple of ebooks. The top ones here are the most interesting ones for your students. I would assume Knime Beginner's Luck and Knime Advanced Luck that help you or your students get started with your Knime journey. So that's really from the Knime Beginner's Luck in particular covers Knime installation up until to get started, how to build workflows, points out specific nodes, and really drives and guides students through the journey of getting started with Knime. Knime Advanced Luck basically continues with that, and then we have more specific ebooks also about, for example, text mining and natural language processing from words to wisdom. And we have a ebook with a collection of use cases that's called Practicing Data Science. And all those ebooks can actually use the code classroom-0920 to get them, download them for free until September 30. Or, and that's really the point here, if you want to evaluate them and deem them interesting for your students, we're happy to generate promotion codes so that your students can also use those ebooks as a compendium, as a central starting place for their Knime journey, basically. And there's one thing that I want to point out beyond the Knime Press, which is our own ebooks. There's a book that was recently released, basically fresh off the press, called The Guide to Intelligent Data Science. Was published by our CEO, Michael Berthold, Rosaria Slippo has already been mentioned, our head of evangelism, and others. And this is really a book that focuses on the practical aspects of data science, but also provides detailed descriptions of the theory. It comes with a lot of hands-on examples and exercises, so people can really go in and really do what they are learning about. I've just basically cut out a sample from the website here, one chapter, data understanding, for instance. So in addition to the text, to the book, the text itself, it comes with our code snippets, with Python code snippets, and it also comes with exercises with Knime workflows, and also upcoming, we'll actually have a full set of slides for a 13-week course that we're currently still working on, but that will be released soon, so you can really use this book as a textbook for your class. If you want to have additional information, go to datascienceguide.org. So, having talked about teaching materials, slides, and books, basically, let's assume that you're using that material throughout your class, you're using Knime, you're teaching students how to use Knime. Wouldn't it be nice to take it one step further and help your students really get started in the professional world? So, well, yes, if they have or if they get a degree, they will get a certificate, for instance, for their degree. But as an employer, it's usually hard to really figure out if a person knows how to use a specific tool. And that's actually a requirement that we've been hearing more and more from industry. So that's why we started about 1.5 years ago to build out Knime certification program, where the idea really is that by establishing certification exams, in our case, they're multiple choice, you show that you know how to use Knime software. And we'd be happy to check with you if what you're teaching to the students aligns well with the examinations within Knime certification program. So if students are really prepared to take the certification exam, we're really happy to host an event for you where we run the certification for your students online, where they can attend for free, and they will basically receive a certificate about basic proficiency in Knime Analytics platform, which more or less equates to the Knime Beginner Slack, and advanced proficiency in Knime Analytics platform, which also more or less equates to the contents of the Knime Advanced Slack. So that's something. You can get more information at the link, or if you're interested in learning more, some information is missing, let us know and contact us. So we regularly run a couple of courses that we would like to grant you discounted access to. If our resources allow, you'll also be able to access the courses for free. And we're currently working on establishing a new course that's called Educate the Educators, talking about how to use Knime in teaching, basically. And there's the possibility to get guest lectures. Very often people make use of that, so that really an employee, a Knime employee, comes to the class or does an online presentation about the company, introduces the analytics platform, but also about specific topics, if you like. So that's the part about lecturers and supporting lecturers and educators. I briefly want to point out a couple of things for Knime in scientific research. So Knime itself, as Dusan already mentioned, it's open source, it's free, you can use it. People all around the globe use it in their scientific research, also in various fields. So we actually have just gone in this morning, Google Scholar, and looked for a couple of publications. And what we see here really covers a broad range from cheme informatics, recent topic, visualization techniques of corona impact, speech signal processing, retail analysis, topic modeling, text mining, and so on. So Knime really is actively used in research, which is a good indicator that it is a powerful tool to use in scientific research. And there's one thing that I specifically want to point out here. You see the 5 years of Knime Bernalis Chem Informatics community contribution. Dusan already mentioned that we at Knime were very community focused, basically. And if some functionality is lacking and you're developing cool algorithms and new technology, you want to integrate them in Knime, we're happy to support you with that. This publication here by Steve Rowley is something they have been maintaining community contribution for a couple of years now. People are happy using it. They're an active part of the community, and we're really glad to have them in the community. And last but not least, where do those publications come from? Additionally, is also a joint research project that we're happy to get involved in. So we also offer support for researchers. If you have a proposal, if you have an idea, we think Knime could be interesting as a platform, reach out to us at academia@knime.com. We're happy to discuss that. We're already part of scientific networks and also a couple of research projects. So we have some experience there as well. And closing in on the last slide here, I deliberately put the Knime server at the very end and also more into the research category. What I've been talking about before, the Knime Analytics platform, what Dusan has talked about, it's free, open source. You might ask yourself, how do we make our money? And there's actually a commercial tool that's called Knime Server. You can use that for collaborating in teams, sharing workflows, and so on. But the one thing that I really want to point out for research as well as education is that you can build workflows and easily deploy them as web application for non-experts. So how does it look like? So there's actually, you can build workflows in which you define so-called interaction points, where a non-expert can determine or see visualization, define parameters, And once they have determined that, click next, they continue, the workflow runs in the background, and they're basically really immediately seeing the results in a web portal application that might look like what you're seeing here on the right side. So this really is interesting, in particular, since business analytics or analytics in general, students will end up in the scenario where they will be building workflows, they will be building solutions, and they have to share it with the domain experts, not only by communicating, but also providing solutions. And that also holds true for researchers who might want to make the research more accessible. Knime Server, I mentioned, is commercial software, but for education and research purposes, our two small editions, the Knime Server Small and Medium, they're available for free. For the Knime Server Large, you have to pay a support fee, which is at 20% of the original price tag. If you're interested, reach out to us. And then last but not least, thank you for listening to me. But I know I've looked at the list of attendees. I already saw a couple of people that I'm in contact with who are already Knime users, who are already using Knime in their classes. Really a big thank you. You're spreading the word about Knime. I think you've made a great choice. And really thank you. Continue doing that. And with that, I would like to hand over to Johnny.
Thank you, Stefan. A nice presentation. I think we're already a little bit over time, but I would say we squeeze one question in. I think that it's an important one. So Philip is asking, how do I have to refer to the Knime teaching material on my slides? Copyright.
So the beautiful thing here is, as mentioned, it's Creative Commons. When you download the teaching material, we've actually made sure that we stripped out the corporate design and so on, and I actually made sure that I put the correct reference on the slides as well. So when you download them, take a look at them, it will actually say you that if you're using those slides, it's derivative work of Knime AG, Knime courses, and so on. It has to be licensed under the same terms as the Creative Commons license. So you can actually really go in, download them, and reuse them immediately and integrate them into your classes. Good question. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Stefan. Good. And now, last but not least, I have the pleasure to hand over to Daniele Tonini. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Jenny. So thanks to Stefan, thanks everybody for attending this webinar. So here, I'm here to tell you a bit about my experience with Knime. So as Jenny said before, in the last 15 years, I worked, I basically have two jobs. So the first one, I am a consultant. I am a partner of this small company here in Milan, Italy, where we basically work on advanced analytics, and we do projects with many big companies, especially in Italy. But the other part of my life is with the university, as I teach at Bocconi University and University of Insubria, but mainly in Bocconi University. So I want to share with you my experience with Knime, specifically in my courses. Some courses I teach alone, in other courses I share the teaching part with the other professors, but I want to share my experience and why basically we choose Knime in many courses. Because I think that it can be useful for you if you have to make the same kind of decision, or maybe you want to improve your course or introduce some news to your course. So consider that in Bocconi University I have almost 200 hours of teaching every year. And I teach in 4 different courses in Bocconi University and 1 course also in the business school. So the list of my courses is pretty heterogeneous because I start from the undergraduate school, so the Bachelor of Science, where I teach statistics. So I am one of the owner of the statistics class in Bocconi. And, you know, statistics is just the basic course on data analysis, inferential statistics, probability, and so forth and so on. This is the first course where I teach. The second course in undergraduate school again, but this is for the Bachelor of Science in Economics and Computer Science. So this is a more specific Bachelor of Science, and the course where I teach is called Big Data and Databases. So something really different from basic statistics. Okay, and this is of course a course that is dedicated to, it's more a technical course. We teach how to analyze a large amount of data and how to practically apply some machine learning algorithms to real life problems. Then in the Master of Science, I teach in a course that is called Predictive Analytics for Data-Driven Decision Making, and this is an advanced course that is dedicated to all the Master of Science in Bocconi, so it's not dedicated to a specific Master of Science, and as the name suggests, it's focused on predictive analytics for both cross-sectional and time series data. Then I have another courses in the Master of Science of Marketing Management, where I teach market research, so multivariate analysis for marketing research data. And finally, in the business school, that is called SDA Bocconi, I teach in a course that's called Big Data Analytics. And of course, this course is dedicated to business unit managers, and the approach is completely different from the university courses. So I want to give you the list of my courses because I want to share with you that I have a pretty heterogeneous and different situation to manage, because I have different student profiles from dummies in analytics, so totally beginners, to pretty much data science nerds. And I have also a pretty good heterogeneity of topics, from basics to machine learning, from more technical courses to more business-oriented courses, right? And what is the decision that I had to make together with my colleagues, of course, is to select the right tool, the right software for that specific course. And it's not easy. And I know if you are considering the same kind of decision in the past few years, you know that it's not an easy decision. So what we did for statistics, basic statistics, we say, all right, we need something to do very simple analysis, spot analysis, mostly inferential analysis, probability. So in that case, for basic statistics, the university, not me in that specific course, they decide to use R as a software for the basic statistic course. And it's pretty comprehensible because, yeah, we just do simple things. We don't show any process of analytics, just how to perform that test, that confidence interval. So we use R. All right, fine. For market research course, there we use a specific tool for market research because we need to use conjoint analysis and that kind of algorithm specific for market research. And so we use SPSS. All right, great. But for all the other courses, the other 3 courses, predictive analytics, big data and databases, and big data analytics, there we choose to use Knime. Okay, we choose to use Knime. And now I'm going to say why we choose Knime versus other software. I know we have, to be clear, in Bocconi, in our university, we have the possibility to use also commercial software because we have SAS, we have IBM, we have basically everything, but we choose to use Knime. Why? For many reasons. So the first of all is that we like it as a professional software. So in our company, we use a lot Knime in the last 6-7 years in a lot of different situations, a lot of different industries, and we are really satisfied, and the clients are satisfied. So as we use the Knime in real life with our clients, we like it, and so that's why we also use it in the university. And another reason is that we want to stay with open source. This is an indication or a suggestion made by the university in the last few years. So to use open source software, also if they have the possibility, they give you the possibility to use commercial software. But the most important reasons is that related with the students that we have. Okay, so we select Knime considering the beginners, so the dummies, those students that they are totally beginners with predictive analytics. And here we have this kind of students typically in 2 of the courses that I listed before. So in predictive analytics, that basically there we have students from marketing, Master of Science, for management, Master of Science, for finance, Master of Science. So they are really a mix of students, and most of them, they are pretty much not so confident with data analytics. So in that case, we want a software that can clearly show the full analytic process end to end, from data ingestion to deployment. And we think that sometimes with R or Python, it's not so easy to show the broad view of the process, especially if you are not a scripting guru, right? So if you're not an expert, it's really hard for us to show an end-to-end process with the usual R and Python software. But for the most advanced user, so for instance, my course, Big Data and Databases, that course is in the Bachelor of Science of Data Science, Bachelor of Science. So they are advanced users. And we start there with the users that they already know a lot about analytics. They know the algorithm, they know how to program in Python. So why for them we choose Knime? Because we have the feeling that they are too focused on optimizing the algorithms, just like a Kaggle competition. And they are less focused on how to use the analytics to interpret the result and to deploy the analytics. And they also basically missed totally the sharing part of the data science project. So we have this feeling that working with Python and R, they missed those important parts: interpretation, deployment, and sharing. And so we want to make them learn the big picture behind the data science project. And so we use Knime because we think that Knime, it's really a good software for that kind of application, showing the end-to-end process, share the results, and sharing the result, it means not with other data scientists, but sharing the results towards business users and managers, and that's important. And it's a thing that it can be difficult sometimes with Python or R. Okay, that's the reason why we selected Knime. And finally, the results that we have. So the last thing I want to share with you is the result. So the students, they are really satisfied. So the beginners, they are satisfied because they find a software that is intuitive, easy to use, and they can learn something new in a simple and a quick way. So they are satisfied about that. But also the hardcore user, so the data scientist that we have, the hardcore user of Python, they are satisfied because they understood using Knime the importance of the process, not just the algorithm, okay? And they learn also how to mix Knime with Python and R, because of course you have the snippet and you can mix them if you want. So they are also satisfied, also the advanced user, they are satisfied about Knime. And another thing that is important, a lot of students then they used Knime in the last few years for their master thesis. I supervised from 10 to 15 master theses every year, and a lot of them they used Knime for their thesis, and it's a good support for their thesis. And I feel that they benefit a lot using Knime for their thesis compared to other software. And finally, last but not least, we had outstanding results in the course evaluation. You know, better than me that it's important to obtain good evaluation in the courses, to keep alive your course during the years, and yeah, to be recognized inside the university. And using Knime, I have to say, with the courses that where we use Knime, they get really outstanding evaluation. So I think also this part, it's really important. And that's it from my side. I think I'm on time, I think. Yep. So if you have any question.
Thanks a lot, Daniele. Yeah, I can also definitely confirm. So back in the days when I was still in academia, using Knime for bachelor or master theses, that helped a lot, because then people are spending way more time on the actual work than on the programming. Yeah. And I really liked your point about the deployment. That is actually a very important point that gets often disregarded a little bit, and that through using Knime, the real world use cases are more important. I like that
if
aspect.
I can add another thing, another benefit of using Knime is, from my company side, is that now we can take some internship or new employees from the university that they can already know how to do an end-to-end data science project using Knime. So for us, it's important that we can just pick up some students, and they are not, of course, an expert, but they already know how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even also the work they create, right, the workflows or whatever, it's easier to reuse a Knime workflow than digging through other people's code. So I think the reusability of the work that the students do is also increased. Definitely. Absolutely. Thank you. There's one question that I would say now we just dive into the Q&A part. I will start with you, Daniele. Yes. Can we have examples of final year projects using Knime for undergraduate students?
You mean their thesis? Sorry, you mean their thesis, or the final project that they used to do for our courses? Because in our courses, especially predictive analytics and big data analytics and databases, the grading is based on a final project that they have to do, something like a group project. And I think that kind of project, one or two of them, I can share them. Regarding the thesis, the final project of the single student, it's more difficult.
Yeah, maybe just give for the first one just one example.
All right. Yeah.
Just right away, if you have something on top of your head. Okay, cool. Nice, thank you. Then the next one I would maybe give over to Stefan. Is there a comprehensive list of top tier journals that already published analysis done with Knime?
No, that's a very unsatisfying answer, I know. There's not really a comprehensive list, really. And I mean, I could show the slide that I had prepared, but if you really go in and just open up Google Scholar, search for Knime, you'll see research published in a variety of different journals, actually. Why I wanted to point that out and bring up that question at the end is that I think this will increase, like not only the Knime use in publications in top journals, but I think this will naturally, hopefully also increase over time with open science becoming more standard, with researchers becoming more sensible when it comes to reproducibility of analysis, because that's one thing that we haven't really touched upon yet. But a Knime workflow, once you've built it, we make sure that you can continue using it as we release new Knime versions. You can share it with not only with collaborators, I mean, you can share it with the wider scientific community. We even have, I think Dorsten has mentioned the Knime Hub, for instance, where you can actually upload Knime workflows for others to access them, download them, and rerun them on their own data. So I think as reproducibility is a thing that becomes more important, Thank you for sharing that, Johnny. Hopefully, we'll also see more and more Knime workflows published in journals, but that's nothing that's specific to Knime. We should also see a lot more R scripts, Python scripts, and whatever published in journals. So short answer, no. Long answer, you had that already.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe just quickly showing the Knime Hub, I think, is of value, because I think the Knime Hub is a relatively new resource, but I think it's super cool. So it's a place to share notes and workflows mainly, but also extensions. So there was, for example, also a question in the chat earlier, are Knime nodes of commercial tools free? For example, Schrödinger nodes. So overall, right, what Stefan mentioned already before, we have a huge community and they're contributing a lot. Most of the extensions they're contributing are for free, but we also have commercial extensions. And that basically means if you already have, for example, in this case, that's a chemistry extension. If you already have a license, you can then also reuse or use the functionality from within Knime. So the short answer overall here is the commercial ones are not free. You still have to buy a license. If you want to know if they're for free or not, you can actually also find that information on the Knime Hub. So if I, for example, just then here do Schrödinger, and there was the question about, I can just do Schrödinger, and then I click here on, I could, if I wanted to, I could check workflows, but I can also click on extensions, and then I can see here, this is the functionality provided. And here I can also dive into the license if I want to. So this is how you find that information on the Knime Hub, which is a real cool resource overall. All right, so that's the answer to that question. That's already answered as well. Okay, that's a tough one. What's the breakup of Knime users? Business versus hardcore data science? I would say I throw that in the group. Everyone can answer who wants to. What is the breakup of Knime users, business versus hardcore data science?
That's really a tough one, actually. Thorsten, do you have an idea or a gut feeling?
I'm on both sides of that continuum, I think, because I'm a engineering graduate, work with engineering faculty, computer science faculty, yet I'm a faculty in business school teaching management science systems courses. I think now, because of the popularity of data science, and then data science, the label is more pronounced in engineering and computer science and statistics than in business schools. In business schools, as opposed to calling it data science, we call it business analytics because we want to make it look like it's doable, right? It's not science, it's not a lot of math. You can do it, kind of connotation kind of attached to it. I don't think there is a dominance per se, but in business school, this workflow, the streamlined of logic, as opposed to syntactic nature of a programming language like Python, resonates more with the students in business school, especially for MBAs, right? Every school has MBA, large classrooms, and we used to have more technical courses. Then over time, those kind of disappeared. The MBA became more and more behavioral, soft, and then we're kind of going back in the cycle of putting more meat, more evidence-based decision-making, data science or business analytics into it. So I think tool as a tool, Knime fits beautifully in MBA courses because it's visual, it's intuitive. They understand what is done, in what sequence it's done, and you can go one level down by double clicking on a node to see what parameters are set, and then play with it to optimize. Without writing a single line of code, you can do data science in Knime. That makes it attractive for business schools, I think. And when you go into the other side, engineering and computer science, because you have those scripting connectors, if you want to dive into Python or R or JavaScript, Knime allows you to go into that extension, right? Or write your own node to make it compete with others. If you write a algorithmic, new algorithmic enhancement, you can create your own node, in Knime because it's open source, and then you can put in the same workflow and make it compete with the existing nodes. So in a computer science type of environment, you know, for PhD level research, this is like magic, I think, you know, very valuable resource for them to consume.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Ruda is also saying, sounds familiar, Dursun. So I think many in the audience agree.
One thing that I can actually add to that, if you go to knime.com/solutions, you'll find actually a couple of, now my phone is ringing, why of all times now? You can actually find a couple of solutions and interesting stories of people and companies that are using Knime, and the one that comes up is actually Continental, for instance. It's called Sparking Data Literacy with Knime. And why is that so interesting? I bring that up here now because they actually have a core group of data scientists building workflows, but they also are pushing that out more to other users who are not data scientists, who are working, I don't know, in budgeting, finance, auditing, and so on. And they're happy using Knime, although they're not hardcore data scientists, but they're happy to automate their procedures and so on. So that might actually be an interesting look to look at the solutions and what companies are using it for. That was it. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you, Stefan. Just one more addition to the question from before. So we got a little bit more clarification. It was about master thesis or overall thesis topics. So that would be good to follow up on, I would say. And then maybe I would say we do one last question that also goes a little bit in the direction of final projects and theses. It's from Azil Boss, and the question is, I have written my master thesis using Knime for the optimization of the production portfolio. I wonder if there's a copyright issue that I should consider in using the name Knime in my thesis or in the further research papers. So here we already have for sure a topic for a master thesis that was used, and apparently successfully. Stefan, I think that's something that you probably want to answer.
That is a very good question. We don't have any trademark or copyright on Knime. That's quotes, Knime quotes. So that shouldn't actually be any problem. If you want to be 100% sure, reach out to me or academia@knime.com. I will check with our legal team to make sure that this answer would actually hold in court. But from our end, that's a story of we honestly, we don't care if you use it, but
and you can obviously also cite.
Yes, definitely. True.
All right, then I would say thank you so much for joining. That was really insightful, Dursun and Daniele, and of course also Stefan. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you everyone else for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.